So we are very blessed this morning, and we're in for a real treat. I want to begin by introducing someone who used to be my mentor when I was in ministerial school. And he ordained me right here where I'm standing. What, 7 years ago? Was it? 10 years ago. 10 years? Ooh, has it been that long? Well, timeless, right? Yeah. So, please, he is on staff. He's a staff minister at Unity of New York. He served for almost 2 decades as a senior minister at Unity of Norwalk, Connecticut, and he is a multi-award-winning stand-up comedian and a pretty snazzy dresser. So can we have a big hand for Reverend Shawn Moninger?
I'll introduce him in a minute. Let's have a little meditation here. Take a breath. I like to say, put your hard hats on. We're going in. See, it's a dangerous neighborhood sometimes. Take a breath in. Breathe up and breathe through. Let it be easy. All this breathing business, let it be very easy. One more time. Breathe in and then breathe up to the highest part of your being. I like to say it's a breathe up to our Christ mind. And I like to affirm that the Christ in me is awake now. For what is the Christ but my memory of God? My memory of good, my memory of love and intelligence and presence and power. My memory of what is. The Christ in me is awake now. Those of you who care to, would you affirm that with me? The Christ in me is awake now. So we see this awakened Christ represents my highest consciousness rather than a person. The Christ in me is my knowing. I know. I just know things at my highest place. I know the good that is. I know the good that has always been, and I know the good that will always be. And that good is always right now. At the sound of the tone, the time will be now. And now is the point of all manifestation. Now is the point of all love. Now is the point where all exists. And so in this now, I am complete. In this now, I am whole. In this now, I am what God is. In this now, I am what God is. I invite you to take that thought into the silence and see what gets revealed for you. In this now, I am what God is. this now. This right now. I am what God is in the divine expression of me. So knowing that, in full confidence, let's start to bring our focus back here to this sanctuary, this place called unity. And as we come back, let us come back refreshed, renewed, fully aware of the good that has just taken place, that we may say thank you and amen. Yay. So who all here knows David Friedman? So some of you are not familiar. We always like to jokingly say that there's either a "the" in front of his name or a "who" with a question mark at the end of it. Yeah. I've got a lot more "who's" with a question mark after mine than he does. And they mispronounce it before they get to the question mark. But with David Friedman, this doesn't sound very nice, but I like to introduce him this way. He has touched all of you. And he has touched your children. And I mean this in the nicest of ways. David Friedman has conducted and did the vocal arrangements for Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame. He has written for Disney with Lizzie McGuire movie. He produced all of the Nancy Lamont CDs and written many of her songs. If you remember the late great Nancy Lamont, phenomenal. If you're not familiar with her, go find her. I promise you, all that music is timeless, and it's just wonderful. He's got a platinum record with Diana Ross. He's written for Broadway. He's conducted 6 Broadway shows. He's worked. He's worked in the business, and so, and he's written this song that he's about to. Is there anything else you'd like me to tell?
That's enough.
Okay. He wrote 100 songs for the Today Show, too.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, for the Everyone Has a Story segment. So with that, let's listen to David.
So this is a song that's very dear to my heart because the writing of it changed my life. As Shawn mentioned, there was a singer named Nancy Lamont who was, you could say, my muse. She was one of the greatest singers of the American popular songbook of the 20th century, and I produced 9 albums for her. And she died unexpectedly at the age of 43. And when Nancy passed, I was desolate, and I thought, I'm never going to write again. And people were calling me and saying, what are you going to write about her, etc. And I just couldn't. I was too angry, too sad, too disillusioned. And one day I was walking down the street, and this song came to me so full-blown that I had to run into a stationery store and buy some paper and a pencil and write it down. And given the way I felt and what this song said, it was not possible that I would have written this song. So I knew that something or someone else had. I say Nancy gave it to me. But what I came to understand is that I don't write songs. They write me. I don't know how to write a song. I know how to open to one. So this gave me an experience that helped me to really trust the one or the force or the source or whatever that's really doing it all. And so I offer it to you. It's called Trust the Wind. There's a voice that's softly whispering inside my head, telling me I'm gonna be alright. It keeps saying, let yourself be led where you are led. Don't hold back, don't put up a fight. It tells me, trust the wind, breathe the air. There's a place you're meant to be, and you're already there. Open up your heart and let life in. You know that you can always trust the wind. When the world starts doing things that I don't understand, and I search my soul to find a reason why, in the dark of night I feel For you can trust the wind, breathe the air, and know that there are helping hands around you everywhere. Open up your heart and let life in. You know that you can always trust the wind. Dreams have wings. Thoughts take flight. All good things are streaming toward us every day. They hear our prayers. They know the way. I'm gonna trust the wind, breathe the air. Let it take me on its wings and carry me somewhere. I'll open up my heart and let life in. I know wherever breezes blow, wherever winding rivers flow, I'm going where I need to go. I can trust the wind.
He's good. He's the best one so far. So far. Keep telling him, do this professionally. Who here was raised in unity? Yeah, that's what I thought. Nobody was raised in unity, or hardly anybody. There's a story about a man who was stranded on a desert island for like a lot of years. And a rescue boat finally comes along one day. And they get there, and they're amazed at what they see. There's a dock to pull their boat up to. And they get there, and there's lovely little shacks and things. And it's kind of built up. And then up on the hill are these 3 buildings. And so the rescue people are there like, who did all this? And he said, well, I did. I said, really? You built all this? He said, yeah, I had a lot of time on my hands. And they said, but those buildings up there, where'd they come from? He said, I built them. You built those beautiful buildings? He said, yeah. And they said, well, what are they? And he said, oh, the middle one, that's my house. I said, really? It's lovely. He said, thank you. And they said, what's the one on the right? And he said, oh, that's the church I go to. They said, well, you built your own church? Yeah. Well, what's the one on the left? And he said, oh, that's the church I used to go to. It's a great unity story. What's lovely about unity is we come to unity when we're ready. When we're ready for a true change. You know, I'm in my right place heading to my true place. And we come into unity when we're ready for that change. And I see my own history with unity. I was ready for this radical change. Because unity is, if you want to really practice it, is radical. It's like I almost like the Jesus Christ main message where it says, follow me. It doesn't say worship me. It says, follow me. Because he says, I found a way in, and you're not going to like it. Forgive everybody. People run for the doors. That's why we lock them. And but it's that when we're ready for this radical change of new thought. Because a lot of times people come into unity and they say, oh, this is so easy. I'm here. I'm staying forever. You just made it so easy. And then they stick around for a little bit and find out, wait a minute, I have to change that thought too. And it's not I just get a new car because I said, yes, God, I'm willing to have a new car. No. I must align my being with the new car if I want the new car. Well, how do I do that? And we say, I don't know, but I know it's possible. I can't tell you how you do it. I can tell you how I do it. Remember years ago, David and I wanted our house that we live in now, and we didn't know how we were going to buy it. But I sat there, we loved it. And at that point, we already owned an apartment in New York that we had a mortgage on and everything. And I sat down in the chapel at my church, and I surprised myself with my prayer, because I said, God, I am now willing to experience this house. And I thought, where did that word come from? Because I would have thought I was going to say I'm willing to have this house. But anybody that has a house knows you don't have a house, you experience a house. There's always something to do. But that word experience came out of me. And I thought, I am willing to experience this house. And then I had to, I said, I heard something tell me to ask this next question. Am I? Because we think, yes, I'm ready for riches and honor. I'm ready for this. Am I? So I had to look within to see if there was any resistance anywhere to that house. Because the house is not the representative there. It's the power of manifestation that you got to look at, and your mind willing to align with that. So I looked, am I? And I couldn't find any resistance anywhere in my body to this. So I called David at home in New York, and I said, I just prayed this way, and I heard, and I said, are you willing to experience this house? I'm getting a little feedback up here, a little ping. Are you ready to experience this house? And he said, yes. And I said, are you? I said, look everywhere. Can you find any resistance? And he said, no, I can't. I said, great, it's ours. We don't know how, but it's ours. And we went on about our business, and it's so strange the way Spirit works. He met with a realtor who was taking him around to Connecticut to look at a part of Connecticut we didn't want to live in. It's like we're ready to settle for less somehow. But what that realtor said is, oh, you could sell your one in New York. You've lived there long enough without any capital gains taxes. And great. So we made a bigger offer on the house. They said yes. Because what I also realized that day after we made our first offer is we're praying for the current owners to not prosper. You know, when we offered them a really low bid, I thought, we're praying that they don't prosper. We've got to be willing that everybody prospers. You know, and so it had to be, I didn't care how, as long as it's, you know, nobody's stealing. But I said, David, our income could go way up. We could win the lottery. The women could suddenly who were selling the house, could come into a pile of cash and say, let's give it to the guys for what they offered. Anything could happen. Well, this is what happened. We got offered a pile of cash for our New York apartment. And so it was so easy to buy the house and do a lot of renovations and things, and we lived beautifully in Connecticut because we were ready to sell the New York place. We just didn't know that we could. But we were ready to experience. And lots of experiences have happened. We've been in there almost 20 years. Lots of experiences have happened. But through it, and so we don't have anything. We experience a body. We experience this church. We experience the weather. We experience our relationships. We experience our cars, you know, our transportation. We experience our money. We experience everything. And so I'm ready to have this experience, or am I? And that's the process. Because sometimes it's, well, one day I'll be ready for that, but today's not that day. It's not unlike the forgiveness thing I mentioned earlier. I believe I am ready to experience forgiveness across the board. But I have discovered a tremendous process that I didn't know. Because you think, oh, I forgive this one and that one, and I don't. Because in spirit, in truth, I didn't have the power to judge in the first place. And so I don't have the power to forgive. What I do have the power to is to give way for a new thought about any and all situations. Now I can tell you with my mother, my mother, years ago I was able to release my mother from any and all blame or accusations from my childhood. It was not the best. And I don't care for, one of my least favorite things to hear in life is, well, they did the best they could. Well, their best was awful. So that does not console me. But a couple of years into my healing, it hit me, wait a minute, look at me. I am so different now than I was then. And then through my mind was revealed, it took all that to get me here. If that had been one bit different, I couldn't be this. And this was good. And so I didn't need the past not to have happened anymore. And so one Christmas, 1996, I was home, and I had planned to do this. This was my amends to my mother, which not to apologize, but to let her off the hook. Because she had taken to apologizing, through adulthood and stuff for the childhood, because I used to use it as a weapon when I was a teenager. It ended a lot of arguments. And so I didn't want to hurt my mother. I loved my mother. And she had become a really good mother to me in her last years, in those recent years. And I said, and she started to apologize. I said, Mother, you don't have to apologize anymore. I said, look at me. Look at who I am. Would you imagine? Could you believe this from that? She said, no, it's really wonderful. I said, yeah, and it took all that to get us here. And I like here. So I will never again accuse you of anything. We'll never lie about what happened, but we're going to take away its meaning and its accusations. And I saw the look on her face, and I saw, she really saw what it had been like in that moment. And 3 weeks later, she made her transition. By surprise, 64 years old, she laid down for a nap, and she left. So I say my amends killed my mother. So that's... I loved my mother. 27 years later, I still love my mother. I would love to talk to her on the phone. I wouldn't bring her back, but I would definitely, she had had enough of this life. It was not an easy one in her mind. But I would love to call her up and chat and say, look how much even better it's gotten. But the thing is, I didn't need the past to be different anymore. With my dad, who left when I was a little boy, disappeared. And later on I met him, and I discovered that I have two half-brothers. I discovered this, I knew about them. But after he made his transition, and I went, Edwin Gaines had invited me out to Arizona for a conference. And I was going there, and they lived there, and I met them. I had met these two amazing men who looked like me. And I found out their life with my dad wasn't better than mine without him. And I went to, up at the, not castle, chapel on the rock. And I'm sitting there where they said his ashes had been spread. And I'm sitting there, and suddenly he became Jack instead of my father who left me. And I thought, isn't that, wow, I don't need him not to have left. And what I've discovered is we pick and choose these things, these experiences of forgiveness. I had been praying for a year about my dad. And was God, I don't know how to forgive this person, but I want to learn how to. And again, the word came, experience forgiveness around my dad. And so and it happened. And I don't understand. My last stepfather, that was another story. It took me years to decide to let him off the hook. I was doing a talk called No Regrets. And I found out he had died the night before, and in front of the congregation, I said, I have this one regret. And so I never took a bat and just beat the heck out of him. And I was a kid. But when I found his grave, and I went there in my hometown, and it occurs to me, now I let my parents off. Why didn't I let him off sooner? I pick and choose. I wasn't ready to let him off the hook until that day. Then I became ready. Now, I've got a couple of people left that I'm still, we have a neighbor that I've been holding a grudge towards since 2005. Seriously. And I just can't seem to find the oomph to let him off the hook. And I pray about it. I look at their house and I pray. I pray for the joy for all of us. One day we're going down the street and he turns around and he waves to me. And I said, I didn't wave back because I was afraid I wouldn't use all my fingers. And I'm a minister, not a saint. But I want to. I want to become willing. I want to be ready to let him off the hook and let myself off the hook with that, because it's very dissatisfying to still be holding a grudge somewhere. Now, I'm not going to ask you that. Don't break your anonymity. I come from a 12-step background. And in the 6th step says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. It doesn't say entirely ready to have me remove all these defects of character. It says God. And I thought, what does that mean? What does the G-O-D? And I like good orderly direction a lot of times in using God. It works better for me than some old man in the sky, because that's too arbitrary. I need something concrete that's practical and practicable. That's why I always liked unity with practical Christianity, because, I could practice it instead of having it be a theory. And so to look at all that and say, how do I become ready for certain things? Entirely ready to have God. And then it hit me, I don't think we have a bunch of defects of character. I think we have one, defect of character. And that defect of character is my unwillingness to accept my divinity. And when I am living in that unwillingness, that's when I become a liar and a thief and a con and all that stuff. And so, am I ready to accept my divinity by way of G-O-D, good, orderly direction? One foot in front of the other, one thought in front of the other, one word in front of the other. And it's not about striving for perfection. It's about the ease that I was promised. In unity, I was promised that I was good and could not be good in God. And whatever God is, it is good, and I am good in it. And it is good in me. And capital G, good. So it wasn't about my behavior. And it wasn't about how I felt. It's my nature. And then, to find out the one on my right is also good. And the one on my left is also good. In God. I don't have to like them. I don't have to care about them. It's our nature. And we're connected, even if I'm not prepared to feel connected. And so I like to look at all that stuff and say, okay, what is it I want? What is it I really desire to experience? And, when you read your Bible, I'm sorry. I always laugh when I say that in a unity church. When I read my Bible, and I just happened to bring a couple of them here today. Now, I borrowed this because I forgot to bring my regular Bible down here with me today, and the person said to me, please be careful with it, Shawn. We read it, and it's our family thing, and we love it. So I'm going to be very careful because I know it's a precious item that they use very frequently here. Makes me very happy to do that. Unity ministers get it. Over here in the 12th chapter of Luke, it says, do not worry. Do not worry. What a great piece of advice. Do not worry. Worrying is my arrogance. Guilt is my arrogance. Shame is my arrogance. Unforgiveness is my arrogance. It's that I think I know better. It's me telling God what to think about this instead of asking Spirit from within, tell me what to think about this. Tell me how to see this. Tell me how to perceive this so that I can think true thoughts. What's a true thought? It's that which has no opposite. It's the same as the capital G, good. It's that which has no opposite. Truth has no opposite. That's why so many think, well, I'm just telling the truth. No, you're not. You're telling your opinion. You're telling your current belief. And that's okay, but it's limiting. And it's a bit arrogant if you insist. See, if it were truth, we would all agree. Yeah. And because it's not truth, we don't all agree. But, there's certain things I feel squishy and nice when I think this, when I try to, but when I'm arguing with you about it, that you should agree with me, then my truth doesn't serve us, does it? We look for a higher. I'm going to read from this other book. This is the Holy Spirit's interpretation of the New Testament. It is my very favorite book. Regina Dawn Akers, as far as I know, she channeled this book. That's what she says. And I feel like I'm in the mind of Holy Spirit when I read this book. And it also, Luke 12, it goes Matthew to Revelation. I'm not trying to sell them here. I didn't bring a bunch of them. We did bring a bunch of David Friedman books, which are available back there. But this, listen to this. Do not worry about your progress on this path that you travel to healing. To be on the path and aware of the path and thinking of the path is enough. Let me tell you a secret that will make your journey along this path simpler and more joyful. The secret is this. As you travel this path, you will have only 2 experiences. One experience will speed you along the journey in joy. The other will delay your journey a little while. The secret to a simple and joyful journey is to learn to discern between these 2 experiences and then always choose the joyful one. Do you hear that? Choose the joyful, the stampede for the doors. I have spoken to you of both experiences before, so this is but a reminder for you. The only 2 experiences that you will know as we travel this path together are the experience of your willingness and the experience of your resistance. Everything you think you experience is either one or the other. So do not worry about your progress on this path. Do not judge your own thoughts or actions, for worry and judgment do not bring joy, so they cannot be willingness. Discern carefully, my friend. Recognize the thought within your mind, and at every opportunity, choose the strength of your willingness. Seek only for the kingdom, and all things will be given you. Where your heart is, your treasure is also. It will be helpful if you remember this. God's will is that you be perfectly happy in every moment of eternity. How about that? Did you know that was God's will for you? So we have to get off the stick and get on board with, whatever God is, its will for me is to be happy, joyous, and free. All the time. It's going to take a lot of thought changes for that, doesn't it? So I want to invite David up here for a moment to explain what he's going to be doing this afternoon to facilitate this.
Thank you. So, we're doing a workshop that I first created about 20 years ago and have developed over these years all over the country. And it's based on the idea we all know in New Thought that positive thoughts lead to a positive life. You take on a positive thought, and that will create a different experience, as Shawn said, a positive experience. We all know this. Why do we have so much trouble doing it? Why do we take on a positive thought and, like a New Year's resolution, and in a day or 2 or 3, we leave it? We're not stupid. We're not lazy. We really are spiritual seekers. So I thought there must be some real reason why this happens. And as I looked into it, I realized that if we have had some sort of traumatic experience with a positive thought, like say you were a kid and you said, I can do this, and someone slapped you across the face, we quickly learn that positive thought creates discomfort. So whenever we think it, we feel uncomfortable, and we exchange that thought for, I don't call it a negative thought, I call it a protective thought. It protects us from thinking, I can do this, and from the perceived danger. So what happens is, so many of us do not fulfill our dreams because we have uncomfortable sensations that mean nothing in the present, but we have learned to jump away from them. So most of the things that we want to do, like when Shawn says, Am I ready? When people say to me, I really want to be famous and successful, I say, are you willing to be that uncomfortable? So what we do in this workshop is we bring up issues in our lives, and since the world is just a mirror of our thoughts, because it's only going on in us, my experience is going on in me, then we look at what am I thinking, we exchange it for the thought we want to take on. Now that's positive thinking 101, but then the difference, we notice where we feel uncomfortable and practice staying with the thought while feeling uncomfortable. If I have to sing, you can bet my heart is pounding, my hands are shaking, my stomach is churning. I want to sing. That's what comes with it. It doesn't mean anything. And so you bring your issues, whatever is bothering you. No one has to speak. You get as much out of it, whether you share or not. And we look at what you're thinking. You exchange the thought, and then notice what's going on in your body, what sensations are there, and come to expect, oh, that's the sensation that's going on. I can do what I want to. And it changes lives, and it's safe, and it's fun. And so 1:30, join us here. Grab a bite, and we'll exchange our thoughts, okay?
Yay. So, the takeaway from today is, if I have any defective character, it is that I haven't yet accepted my divinity. Am I ready to accept my divinity? And my divinity comes in all shapes and sizes. It's individualized for every single one of us. And so we look at our lives and say, is there something I've been longing to do? Is there some divine idea I've had and I've been afraid to put it into action? Is there something I have a passion for? Where we're staying, our host, she's suddenly going to culinary school, and she's making breads. I mean, artisan breads, beautiful breads, because she has a passion for that. There's more bread around that house yesterday, and really delicious types of bread. And years ago, I wanted to do a stand-up comedy show. I also wanted to sing. I wanted to do these things that I was so afraid of. I lit nightclub acts for 21 years because I was afraid to get on the stage. It turns out I was very good at the lights. I won awards and things for it. But I was an artist, but I wanted to be on the stage. I wanted to know the difference. And I became a licensed Unity teacher. And through that, I got a little more courage. And then at a certain point, I thought, I'm going to do stand-up. And a producer said, I'll put you on. And I did a 7-minute set. And I did 30 appearances that first year. Turns out I was funny. And then a few years later, I wanted to do my one-man show. And I put together a 60-minute show. And I sold out for 10 months in New York. The show was called Because I Can. Because at that age, that's why I was doing it. Because I can. It didn't matter if I was a success or failure. What I didn't want was to get any older without having tried. Because I didn't want to live in regret. That's part of not accepting my divinity, regrets. And I wanted to know God works in and through and as me. As Reverend Evelyn and I were talking about, one of our ministers, Reverend Mary Alice Brown, used to say, I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. Say it. She'd yell at us. This woman. I said, why is she so mad at us? And I realized she was passionate. I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. Let's all say it together. I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. Well, I didn't hear all of you saying it, did I? So let's say it again. There's channeling Mary Alice. One more time. I am alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. Yay. So, I'd always wanted to sing. I didn't know I could. And David told me one day, you can sing. He heard me play singing in his apartment for a song I knew. And he said, oh, no, you hear the note. Send it across the room. And so I did. And he said, oh, yeah, you can sing. And bit by bit, I started doing silly little songs, funny things. And then one day I said, I want to learn a David Friedman song. And I did. And I closed my show with this. And I've sung it a lot because it means so much to me. And really I say, if there's anything you want to try, and you say, I don't want to get older with wishing I had tried. Open up to that divinity within you and go for it. Thank you for having us here. I never thought that there could be a love like yours and mine. I never dreamed that I would see the day that I would find a love that feels so right. But here we are tonight, and now the only thing we really need is time. We live on borrowed time. No one can be sure when the loan will finally come due. But I'm loving all of mine. I know what time is for. I borrowed it so I could spend it all right here with you. There was a time when I believed that life held guarantees. There was a time when I was sure my future was secure. But life had other plans. The future's in God's hands, and knowing that has let me live and love you more. We live on borrowed time. Yesterday is past. Tomorrow seems a million miles away. But I promise you that I'm gonna make love last by living every moment, every hour, every day. Now we may have a year and we may have a lifetime. No one can be certain what the future will allow. But you and I are here, and this time is the right time. 'Cause one thing that I know is that we have each other now. And now we live on borrowed time. Let's celebrate and sing as we walk bravely into the unknown. 'Cause we're gonna be just fine, whatever life may bring. We'll face it all together, and we'll never be alone. We may not have forever, but our time will be our own. See you in church.